Imagine walking down the aisle, expecting the happiest day of your life, only for someone to tell you that your daughter doesn't belong in the family photos. That's exactly what happened to me on my wedding day. My name is Sarah, and I'm 32 years old. I've always dreamed of this day, the day I would marry the man I love, Evan. Everything was going perfectly. The venue was beautiful, the guests were happy, and the wedding ceremony was everything I'd imagined. But what I didn't expect was that this day, a day meant for love and celebration, would be overshadowed by an unexpected betrayal. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. At the center of it all was my daughter, Mendeline. She's 7 years old and has always been my little miracle. We went through so much together. Her father and I had a rough divorce, and it was just the two of us for a long time. Then I met Evan, and we got married, hoping to build a life where Mendeline would finally have a supportive family around her. But I was wrong to think it would be that simple. Tease the problem. Evan's family never fully accepted Mendeline. From the moment I introduced her, there was an awkwardness I couldn't quite place. I thought it was just nerves, but it became clearer that something was off. But I never imagined it would all come to a head on our wedding day. The photo session was supposed to be a beautiful memory, something I could look back on with joy. But instead, it became a moment that would change everything. As the photographer called us for the family photos, something strange happened. My in-laws, people who were supposed to be there for me and Mendeline, made an offhand comment that shook me to the core. It wasn't just awkward anymore. It was hurtful, and it made me question everything I thought I knew about my new family. But I couldn't let it slide. I had to make a choice, stay quiet, or stand up for my daughter in front of everyone. The tension was thick, and I could feel all eyes on me. I knew the next few moments would change everything, and I wasn't sure what to expect when I decided to speak out. The family photos were supposed to be the highlight of the day, but they turned into a battleground. And it all started with one comment that shattered my peace. Building the situation. The wedding day started out beautifully. The morning was filled with laughter, excitement, and the warm anticipation of a new chapter in my life. Evan and I had been together for 5 years before tying the knot, and Mendeline, my little girl, had been by my side through it all. I wanted this day to be special for her, too. She deserved to feel loved, cherished, and accepted by her new family. But things were different with Evan's side of the family. It wasn't obvious at first. There were no huge arguments or confrontations, but the tension was there. They were polite to Mendeline, but I could see in their eyes that they weren't quite accepting her the way I had hoped. It was hard to put into words, but I felt like an outsider in their world. It didn't matter how much I tried to make them feel comfortable with her, the awkwardness always lingered. The first red flag appeared when we were all gathered for family photos. I thought it was going to be simple, just a few posed pictures, smiles all around. But as we lined up, I noticed my in-laws exchanging subtle glances, particularly my mother-in-law, who looked like she was trying to figure out how to deal with Mendeline's presence. I could tell something was off, but I didn't want to make a scene. This was supposed to be a joyous occasion, and I didn't want to ruin it. But then it happened. I overheard my father-in-law whispering to my mother-in-law, just loud enough for me to hear, "She doesn't belong here." My heart sank. It was as if everything stopped. My hands began to shake and the air felt colder. I turned to see Mendeline, standing at my side, completely unaware of the exchange, smiling at the camera. She was innocent in all of this, but I was. I knew exactly what had just been said, and it hurt. It cut deeper than any of the other passive remarks I'd heard over the years. This was different. This was a direct rejection of her, a rejection of everything she and I had worked so hard to build. I tried to stay calm. I tried to tell myself it was just one comment, and that I shouldn't let it ruin the day. But as the photographer clicked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was going to define my relationship with Evan's family forever. It wasn't just about a photo anymore. It was about a mother standing up for her daughter, who deserved to be included as much as anyone else. I took a deep breath and glanced at Mendeline. She smiled back at me, unaware of the storm brewing around us. In that moment, I knew what I had to do. But when my mother-in-law spoke again, It wasn't just a whisper. It was loud enough for everyone to hear, and it was worse than anything I could have imagined. I felt the weight of the moment as the words hung in the air, and I realized I couldn't just stand there and say nothing anymore. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The worst part was, I wasn't sure if my husband even noticed. This was no longer about a photo. It was about a battle for my daughter's place in this family. As the photographer continued taking pictures, I felt the tension build. My mother-in-law's comment echoed in my mind. She doesn't belong here. How could they say that? How could they just dismiss Mendeline like that? I tried to breathe and focus on the positive moments of the day, but every click of the camera felt like it was underscoring the truth of their words. I looked over at Evan, hopping for some support. We had been together for years, and I thought he would always stand by me. But to my surprise, he was acting distant. He wasn't speaking up, and it felt like he didn't even notice how hurt I was. His family's coldness towards Mendeline had always been a silent issue between us, but now it was glaringly obvious. This was the breaking point. As we moved into the next photo position, my heart began to pound in my chest. The space between me and my in-laws seemed to grow wider. How could they be so indifferent to my daughter? They were supposed to be her family, too. I had always believed that blood didn't make a family. Love did. But here I was, standing in the middle of a wedding, surrounded by people who didn't seem to care about the most important part of my life, my daughter. That's when it happened. My mother-in-law, who had been giving me icy glares all day, leaned in close. Her voice was low but sharp. "She shouldn't be in these photos, it's not right." I froze. Her words cut through the air, and for a split second the world around me seemed to go silent. She wasn't speaking to me directly, but I heard every word. I wanted to ignore her, to push through. But my mind raced. I could feel the eyes of everyone in the room on me now, and I realized I couldn't let this slide. I couldn't let my daughter be humiliated again by these people. My whole body was tense, and I could feel the heat rising to my face. It wasn't just about Mendeline anymore. It was about standing up for what was right. This was my moment. I had spent years trying to make my daughter feel like she belonged, and here my in-laws were, questioning her place in this family. I turned to Evan, hoping he would see what was happening, but he was still quiet, unsure of what to do. That was when I knew. I couldn't rely on anyone but myself to defend Mendeline. I stepped forward, my heart racing. I could feel the weight of the room's gaze, but I couldn't stay silent anymore. "This is her family, too," I said, my voice steady but firm. The photographer's camera paused as if the entire room was holding its breath. Evan's family stared at me, stunned. I saw my mother-in-law's face flush with embarrassment. The silence was deafening. But before I could process what I had just done, I saw something in my mother-in-law's eyes, something that told me the situation was far from over. There was a tension in her expression that spoke volumes, and I knew this was only the beginning of what was going to unfold. What had I just done? And how would they react? The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife, and the room went silent. But the worst part? This wasn't just about a photo anymore. It was about everything I'd been trying to ignore for years. The truth was coming to the surface, and I wasn't sure I was ready for it. After my outburst, everything froze. The silence felt unbearable. I stood there, facing Evan's family, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't look at Mendeline this time. I couldn't. I was too consumed by the realization that the moment I had dreaded had finally arrived. I had defended her, my daughter, but would it even matter? What was the cost of standing up for her? I tried to maintain my composure, but I could feel the weight of their judgment bearing down on me. The photographer cleared his throat and started taking more pictures, but no one seemed to be paying attention. My in-laws were still in shock, as if they couldn't believe that I had actually said something. My mother-in-law's face was red, but she didn't speak. Instead, she just stared at me, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. Embarrassment, anger, maybe a mix of both. Evan finally spoke, his voice quiet but firm. "Mom, Dad, this is our family. Sarah and Mendeline are part of it." His words hung in the air, and for the first time that day, I saw a flicker of defiance in him. But there was a catch. His eyes never fully met mine. It was as if he was speaking more to his parents than to me, and that small detail didn't go unnoticed. My heart sank. Evan had said the right words, but it felt empty. It was almost like he was apologizing for me, as if I had done something wrong by standing up for my own daughter. I had hoped he would stand beside me, truly beside me, not just offering a half-hearted defense. And as we moved to the next set of family photos, I saw my in-laws whispering among themselves, no doubt plotting how to handle the situation. But then, just when I thought things might settle down, my sister-in-law leaned over and muttered under her breath, loud enough for me to hear, "This is what happens when you marry someone with baggage." Those words hit me like a slap in the face. Baggage. That's how they saw my daughter. And just like that, everything I'd tried to ignore came rushing back. The silent exclusion, the coldness, the subtle barbs aimed at my daughter, it had all been there beneath the surface. And now they had shown their true colors. I glanced at Mendeline once again. She was standing next to Evan, her small face still beaming, blissfully unaware of the storm raging around her. My heart broke for her. She didn't deserve this. She deserved a family who would love and protect her, not one that saw her as an afterthought or a burden. But as I watched her smile, I also realized something. This wasn't just a fight to prove that she belonged, it was a fight for me, too. I had spent too long tiptoeing around these people, hoping they'd accept my daughter. But now, I understood that acceptance wasn't something we needed from them. I wasn't going to let their cruelty define our family. As we finished with the photos, I felt an unease I couldn't shake. What was going to happen when we left the wedding? What kind of fallout were we about to face? The real battle wasn't about to happen in the photo album, it was about to happen back home. The fallout from the wedding didn't take long to unfold. That night, as we drove back from the venue, Evan was unusually quiet. I tried to keep calm, but inside I was bracing myself for what was coming. When we finally arrived home, Evan spoke first, his tone heavy with hesitation. "Sarah, I need to apologize," he began, rubbing the back of his neck. "I should have stood up for you and Mendeline more." I was taken aback. "You don't need to apologize, Evan. It's not about that. It's about how your family has treated her for all these years." I paused, trying to collect my thoughts. They don't just see her as an outsider, they see her as baggage. Evan's face fell, and I could see the pain in his eyes. I didn't realize it had gotten this bad. I never thought it would come to this. But they were always like this. I thought if I just kept the peace, it would get better. I was wrong. For the first time in years, I felt a weight lifting. Evan finally understood. The truth about his family's rejection of Mendeline had been simmering under the surface, and now it was out in the open. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I wasn't sad. I was relieved. I had spent so many years trying to get Evan's family to see what was right in front of them. A little girl who needed love, acceptance, and belonging. And for the first time, Evan was standing with me, not just as my husband, but as a father to Mendeline. "I'm not going to let them treat her like that anymore," Evan said, his voice filled with conviction. "I promise she's my daughter too, and we're a family." His words were like a balm for my wounded heart. I finally believed it. Mendeline wasn't just my daughter, she was our daughter. And together, we would protect her from any more hurt. The fallout from that day was inevitable. Evan had a difficult conversation with his family. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't pretty. His parents, shocked and hurt by his stance, tried to justify their behavior, but Evan wasn't backing down. He told them he couldn't be part of a family that treated his daughter with such cruelty. This decision led to strained relationships. Evan's family tried to guilt-trip him, claiming he was being unreasonable. But for the first time, he didn't fold. He stood by us. And it changed everything. For Mendeline, the days that followed were filled with love and security. The rejection she had faced before melted away as Evan, and I worked hard to show her that she was worthy of the same love and respect as anyone else. Her confidence blossomed, and I knew we had made the right decision. The day we left that wedding was a turning point. Our family was stronger than ever, and although it hadn't been easy, I realized that standing up for Mendeline was the best decision I could have ever made. No longer would I let others, prejudices dictate who my daughter was or where she belonged. When I look at Mendeline now, I see a young girl full of confidence, no longer worried about fitting into a family that didn't accept her. She belongs with us, exactly as she is, and that's all that matters. As I closed the door behind me that night, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. Our family had faced a storm, but we had come out stronger on the other side, together.